one of the most dedicated teachers in poker. I do my best. Exemplified by the quality of the new masterclass. Well, we'll give you a look today. A little part of the masterclass. A lot of you have been asking about when you should be leading the turn. So we're going to be discussing leading the turn today. Not going to talk about examples first. We're going to talk about straight up strategy first. Then we're going to go through some examples. This is straight up part of the masterclass. In the masterclass, there's a video of me presenting it. I'm just going to present it here for you live and take your questions because I'm sure there's going to be plenty because this is a confusing spot. If you want to get my brand new tournament masterclass over 30 hours long, should probably figure out exact length, huh? Let's write that down. It's probably more like 45. Depends on what you want to count as the masterclass, because there's a bunch of hand history reviews that I recorded like exclusively for the launch of it. I don't know, 8 or 10 hand history reviews of deep runs in regular tournaments, satellites, PKO tournaments. A day where I just sat down and streamed all day and won a tournament. I think I won a tournament. Maybe I took a second and a third. I don't remember. It was a good day. Does that count as part of it? I'm not sure. If that counts, then we're at like 50 hours. But I think the lecture content and the quizzes are mostly 30 hours or so. Anyway, here we are. You're going to be doing the flop today. Good. A lot of you have been sending in suggestions for ways we can improve the class, which is great. I'm currently going through and revamping, double-checking the quizzes, making sure all those are accurate. I saw a few of those had little grammatical errors. Maybe a question or two had a wrong answer, so we're going through and fixing those. Thanks for all the suggestions on that. That's what I've been spending my morning doing, going through everything. It turns out, this is going to sound very egotistical, but I understand both writing and poker combined better than almost anybody. Not the best writer, not the best poker player, but if you take the best writing poker player, that may actually be me. Like, I just don't mess up. Mess up every once in a while, but I just don't mess up. As you can see, we're on T today. I was quarantined for 5 days because I came back from Vegas. It's a responsible thing to do to quarantine for 5 days, go get a test. I did that. I don't have COVID. I also don't have antibodies somehow. To be fair, I haven't gone outside really. And I had no caffeine for 5 days. So we're going to generally do our best to be off of high caffeine teas, high caffeine coffee. We're on green tea. We'll try to stick with green tea for a while. What program was I taping in Vegas? Poker After Dark. I'm excited for it. I do more than just play in it. You'll see when it comes out. It comes out in, I think, mid-December on Poker Go, and then it'll be on TV later. Today, let's discuss leading on the turn. All right. What is a lead? I want to make this very clear what we're talking about. There are all sorts of plays you can make on the turn. You can lead, you can probe, you can check, you can be facing a delayed continuation bet. You can just be betting, right? I go through all these examples in this course, as you can see. Delayed continuation bet, examples, facing a delayed continuation bet, leading, as the flop caller in position when check 2 on the turn, short stacked on the turn, facing a probe on the turn. Anyway, all sorts of spots we go through. This is just one tiny section of the masterclass, but I know this is going to be impactful for all of you, and I like to reward my little coffee. What are you all called? We're going to call you the sharks again. The little coffee sharks. Where's my little coffee sign? Is it turned off? If you're listening to this, by the way, this will be a good one to watch. youtube.com/pokercoaching. Where's my little coffee sign? I think I lost it. Oh, well. All right. Leading the turn. Let's get to it. A lead is when someone raises, you call from the big blind. Okay? Flop comes, whatever. You check from the blinds. They bet. You call. We're going to be discussing particularly the blinds here because this is really the only time you're going to be doing much leading at all. If you raise and someone calls in position and you check call the flop, you're not really going to be doing a whole lot of leading. But from the big blind, that is the time where you are going to end up doing some leading. And you're going to want to lead depending on the turn card. And you want to be leading into the flop aggressor when the turn card increases your equity and EV. Both. Those are slightly different things. We're not going to get into that today. But basically, does the turn increase your equity? Easiest thing to look at. So, when the turn is good for you, a plus EV turn, a profitable turn, you're going to want to be betting very frequently from the big blind. But when the turn is neutral or negative EV, you're going to want to be checking, right? So, in general, the typical most plus EV turns are these. The low straightening turns like 8-7, 5-4. That's because if you think about it, the player in the big blind has a whole lot of sixes for straights, and they have a lot of two pairs as well. Whereas the player, let's say, under the gun or in the hijack seat doesn't have a whole lot of those, right? So that makes sense. That's a scenario where the nut advantage heavily shifts towards the big blind, and the equity advantage also shifts towards the big blind. Next, when the middle pair, or when the middle card on the flop pairs or the bottom card on the flop pairs, assuming that card is a decent part of the big blind's range. Now, if the board is ace, king, 3, and the turn's a king, that's not a particularly great turn to lead on because the initial raiser is going to have a whole lot of kings, right? Same thing for a 3. If, let's say, under the gun raises, you defend the big blind, and it comes ace, king, 3, 3, it's also not a particularly good turn to lead because the big blind doesn't defend with all of their 3s, right? However, say it's like 9-7-3 or 9-7-5, and the turn is a 7 or a 5, that's a pretty good spot to lead. Also, high monotone boards, when another high card comes on the turn, it's going to be a weird spot. We'll talk about this very briefly. Let's take a look at this exact example I have here. Ace, queen, 3, king, all spades. If you're against under the gun raiser, what jacks do they have that contain the jack of spades? They may not even raise like king jack offsuit preflop. So really they only have ace jack with the jack of spades and pocket jacks with the jack of spades. That's it. Jack 10 of spades maybe. Jack 9 of spades maybe. Very few combinations if you think about it. And if you compare that to the amount of combinations of jack of spades the big blind has, they actually have a decent amount. You want to say hello?
Wait, Mommy, I want to.
Oh, you want to say hello? Okay, where's your pants?
I want to show them without pants.
Oh, you want to show them without pants? Can you say hello to everybody?
Hello.
Oh, let's get the full screen. Let's get the full
I
screen.
can't see anybody.
Yeah, because you're all tiny. Is that going to work?
No.
There it is.
I want the whole one. No,
That's an old screen. Don't go to that link. Go to pokercoaching.com/Black Friday. Can you say Black Friday? Can you say get your sale on now?
Get your sale on now.
That's right. Can you blow a kiss? Where are you going? Oh, two sweet boys. They're very sweet boys. Can you give Thomas a hug?
On this side.
Yeah, you're on that side.
Why aren't the I'm on this? You should be still with that.
Yeah.
Why are those skeletons?
Oh, that's a picture called Time Walk. Do you like it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a picture called Time Walk. It's a Magic the Gathering card.
Are they white? But why do they kind of look like skeletons?
That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to ask the person who drew it, okay? Okay.
Is that all the way over there drew it?
Yeah, exactly. Can you wave bye-bye? You guys got to go. Say bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Blow a kiss. Can you say Happy Thanksgiving?
Happy day. Happy day.
Okay, bye.
Somebody's not talking.
They're talking. Don't worry. Bye. See you. Love you. Bye. Bye-bye. I have a picture here of a Magic the Gathering card called Time Walk, drawn by the artist. Well, painted by the artist. Why are there skeletons here, Daddy? Why are there skeletons? Why are there skeletons? That's what the card looks like, man. What do you want from me? All right. Let's get back to poker. Okay. Ace, queen, 3, king, all spades. There's very few jack of spades and 10 of spades in the under the gun range, but the player in the big blind has a lot of them. And assume that any turn card that is not plus EV for the big blind, the out of position caller, is plus EV for the opponent, is negative EV for the player, right? So basically, if it's not good for you, it might as well be bad. You just want to do a whole lot of checking. Okay, so you want to be leading when the turn's good for you. So, you should strongly consider leading when the turn is plus EV and it gives you the nut advantage, right? And you may find some spots where you actually want to lead close to 100% of the time, which is kind of neat. You're going to find that generally you're going to want to be using a small bet size when you're leading, especially when you're somewhat shallow stacked. If you're deeper stacked, that does change. Sometimes you're going to want to be blasting it. And that the main reason you're betting small is because the in positions range does still have some strong hands that we're going to end up bluffing them on. So when the board pairs on a low card or 3 or 4 low straight card, Stu, I just went through literally all of this. I just gave you some beautiful examples here. All of these are reasonable examples. Okay? All these are reasonable examples. This is in the Tournament Masterclass. You already remember. You can go through and watch this. I explain it really slowly. All right. Negative EV cards don't lead. And whenever you don't lead, you're checking 100%. Whenever you're checking 100%, use the facing a bet response flowchart, which is in the Tournament Masterclass. Essentially, what's your hand type? Do you have junk? Just fold. Do you have a marginal hand? Call. Do you have a premium hand or draw? If we do we have the nut advantage? If we don't, mostly call. If we do, mostly raise. Okay? Now let's go through a few examples to really illustrate this. All right. See all of your questions. Did you do the 4-hour body? Yes, I did my best to get in reasonable shape. Turns out, if you don't eat a bunch of sugar and you're reasonably active and you don't eat a bunch of bad carbs, you'll get skinny. At least I got skinny. For quite a while, I did not eat any carbs or any sugar, and it turns out I got like really skinny. But now I eat carbs and I eat sugar, and I'm reasonable about it, and so I'm in fine shape. Not the skinniest I've ever been, but I'm in fine shape. I'm not. There's always some like a bit of life happiness equity that you essentially trade, assuming you enjoy eating food, which I guess I do. Don't feel bad about it. That's it. I don't feel bad about it. Fine shape is good shape, exactly, right? Like I'm not trying to get in sick, good, super shape. But like I used to drink like 6 liters of Coca-Cola a day and eat a bunch of chicken pot pies. I was fat then, and then I stopped doing that, and I lost a bunch of weight. Who'd have thought? Okay. There's a book called The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. It looks like a big book. I guess it is a big book. Check it out. 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. There's also The 4-Hour Chef. It'll teach you how to cook. It's pretty cool. I know how to cook about 20 things. And they're all pretty good. And they're all healthy. All right, let's take a look at this spot. 40 big blinds, big blind versus under the gun +1. So, under the gun +1 raises, big blind calls, flop comes Jack 6-2. Okay? Big blind checks, under the gun +1 bets, big blind calls. Okay? Turn is any of these cards. You may say, why can't we have the 2 of diamonds? Notice it's not there. Well, 2 of diamonds is on the board, right? Same thing with Jack of clubs and Jack of spades. Jack of spades and 6 of clubs. Those are on the board. So, let's use a little bit of logical sense. I'll show you how to read this chart. Does this apply to cash games? Of course it does. That said, we're talking about 40 big blinds deep here. You will lead less often in cash games across the board because the player in position has a bigger advantage due to deeper stacks. So you always lead less as stacks get deeper. Okay. Anyway. What are the bad cards? So, see the ace here. It says that we have 36% equity on an ace turn, which is really bad. So, we know we're just like never, ever, ever betting a turn. Same thing with a king, a queen, a 10. All of these are just like straight up bad turns. Notice our equity is below 50%, which is not great. And it turns out you're really only leading whenever the turn really gives you a decent equity advantage. If you watched my webinar I did yesterday, you can find it on youtube.com/pokercoaching, where I went through flop strategy. I discussed the times where you have a big advantage are primarily when your equity is something like 58% or higher, or when you happen to have like a big nut advantage. That will often allow you to bet somewhat frequently too. So this is a neat spot where if you take a look at this, all the high cards are just not great. 7's like marginal, 3's marginal. So the only leading candidates here are a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. But if you think about this, which of these cards gives you more nuts? We see the 4 is the highest equity turn, but is that actually the best turn to lead? This is where you have to use a little bit of logic here to try to figure out what the best turn to lead is in this scenario. You want to keep watching with me? Okay, come take a seat. Come take a seat. No, it's okay. You don't need to close it.
Please, can I close it?
I'll close it. Okay. Look, we're talking about which card's better. Look, what number is this one? What number is that?
4.
What number is this?
7.
What letter is this?
T.
What letter is this?
A.
What number is this?
Like 3.
That's right. You know all your numbers. You're so smart.
Why is there no 1?
That's a good question. The 1 is actually the ace. It's a little bit confusing. Like whenever we play Go Fish, the 1 is the ace, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, as we see here, 3, 4, 5, 6 are all decent, but actually the 6 is going to be the card you're going to lead the most by a mile. You'll probably lead the 4 a little. Maybe we'll lead the 2 a little too, because if you think about it, we have some 2s, but like we discussed earlier...
Some 2s where?
We have some 2s. Just trust me on this one. We have some 2s. I know it looks like it's only 53%, but we have some 2s. The greener it is, the better, typically. But remember, we don't actually have a lot of 2s because under the gun plus 1 raised, so we're not calling all 2s, but we are calling a lot of 6s, right? So, take a look at this chart. Look at this.
What?
Daddy predicted it. 7s and higher, we check literally every time.
I thought 1, 5,
Yeah.
then I thought it 2, 5, and then I thought 3, 5.
Which one has the most red? Which number has the most red here?
I think that one.
This one?
Yeah.
What number is this?
6.
Yeah, the 6 is the best one. It has the most red. The red means you're betting. Notice here also the 4 and the 2 get led a little bit, but for all practical purposes, you can just ignore that. Bless you. Because you're only leading like 10% of the time, which is not a lot. All right. Oh, you're going outside. Say bye-bye.
I'm going outside to have a play different.
Say happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay. Bye. Bye, Thomas. Have fun.
Hi, too.
Bye-bye. Next time. Want to say hi to? How old is this kid? That kid is 4. Almost 4, not quite 4. So, as you can see here, even though we have more equity on the 3, 4, and 5, maybe not the 5, the 3 and the 4, we're actually leading the 6 way more often. And that's because of the nut advantage, right? The fact that we have a lot of 6s allows us to lead very, very frequently. So let me show you the implementable strategy, the JL strategy. So these frequencies are for all of our range from the big blind. All of our range that we check call the flop with. We don't check call the flop with everything. We check fold the flop a lot, like when we have nothing, right? But when we do check call, we have a whole lot of jacks, but so does the big blind. I'm sorry, so does the initial raiser. We have a lot of 6s, we have a lot of 2s, we have a lot of low gut shots, we have a lot of low, like 6-5 type hands. Essentially, all the big cards kind of hit the under the gun plus 1 raiser to some extent, so that's going to improve their equity. All the low cards don't really hit them, and the 6 really doesn't hit them because they have no 6s to begin with. So this is a spot where we're going to want to be leading with 6s. So let's take a look at this. Say the turn is a 6. What do we do? The 6 is excellent for our range. And essentially, you want to bet here with your best made hands and your draws. Now, you can be very aggressive classifying draws, because notice here, if I select all the good jacks and all the 6s as premium hands, notice we actually have 32% of our range that we get to the turn with is like a really good hand. And on the turn, I discussed this previously, but you can have up to 1 draw for every 1 premium hand. Okay? So we could have about 32 to 32-ish% draws here. So we essentially get to bet with all of our non-showdown value hands, which is quite powerful. Notice we also bet 2s as a quote-unquote draw. Those are kind of like made hand value bets, because really we're just trying hard to find some here. So we're betting our lowest 2s as well, because we don't really have any other logical draws, right? I mean, find some, right? I mean, I guess you could call like ace 9 a draw, but like, it's not really. It probably can just check down and win. So we're betting a lot here. Like a lot. Okay? So we're betting a ton. Let's take a look at what the solver does. Here's GTO solver solution. You can see if mine lines up with it. Notice here I am checking 32%. Solver checks even less than that. Solver checks 26%. So, you know, pretty similar. Let's see if the ranges line up roughly. Notice solver mostly checks the aces when they have them, right? Ace, queen, ace, king is checking. We don't have the exact same range as solver because we play the ranges slightly differently. We were check raising some of those hands. Or we 3-bet them pre-flop or whatever. Getting messages. All right. So notice stuff like King 9 is leading. Jack 8's top pair, it's leading, of course. Stuff like 6s, all the 6s are leading. 5-4 leads, 5-3 leads, 9-8 leads, Queen 10 leads, right? You like how I compare the JL implementable charts to the PIO charts. It brings it home. Yeah, well, that's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying just to really confirm that like the strategies I'm outlining are at least pretty close to PIO, but 100% implementable and logical, right? So this is a spot where on the 6 we are leading a lot. Someone asked, why are we not leading the 3? Because it's the 4 and the 5, or the 3 and the 4. Why are we not leading the 3 and the 4? Because those are high equity. Because those don't give us the nut advantage. Whenever we have a 6, like in this scenario, a 6 is just the super nuts, right? Whereas whenever we get a 3 on the turn or a 4 on the turn, we don't actually have a lot of nuts. They're better for our range, but we still just lose to aces, kings, queens, ace, jack, right? So this is a spot where the 4 and the 3, our cards we're going to be continuing on a lot, and we're probably going to be check raising them a decent amount, but we're not really going to be leading. The 6 is a turn where if we check, the initial raiser should actually check behind very, very frequently. And we don't want to let him check behind very, very frequently. We want to bet and get money in when we have a 6, right? And because we have so many 6s, notice solver leads basically every 6 here, we also get to have a lot of bluffs. And notice all the bluffs are betting. We're mostly using a small size across the board. And like right here, we see 63% betting a third pot, 10%, 9% betting 67% pot. I would just bet a third pot with everything. And really, as an exploit, it's probably a spot where you can lead with 100% of your range. I've actually had really good success doing this, so consider it. Let's take a look at another spot. Under the gun +1 raises, big blind calls, flop comes king 7-5. Under the big blind checks, under the gun +1 bets, 67% pot, so kind of big. Big blind calls. All right. Notice this is a board where sometimes they bet big, sometimes they bet small, but they're betting big this time. Go through, use some logic, figure out your equities, right? We already talked about how the low straight and the low paired cards are quite good for the big blind. But again, just because a card gives you good equity does not necessarily mean you lead on it all that often, okay? As we see, the ace is just really bad. The king is fine, but notice under the gun +1 has a lot of kings, so we certainly can't lead that. Queen, jack, and 10 are pretty bad too. 9's not great. Then we get down to these middle connected cards, right? Remember how I said the cards that complete 3 straights and 4 straights are typically reasonable. So if you consider this scenario, is an 8 a good card? Well, an 8 completes lots of 2 pairs, lots of straights, but does it give us a lot of nuts? Not really. Very high equity card, doesn't give us a lot of nuts. What about a 7? Woo, 7 gives us a lot of nuts. A lot of nuts, especially when under the gun +1 bets big. They probably don't actually have all that many 7s. Therefore, this is a spot where we have a lot of nuts here. 6, same story as the 8. High equity card, but probably doesn't give us the nuts. Take a look at the 5. We probably actually lead the 5 a decent amount too. Because we have some 5s. Notice it's actually not that high of an equity card. What's the nuts? The nuts are a hand that we're just happy getting all of our money in with. So if the turn brings another 7, and we have a 7 in our hand, that's 3 of a kind. We're not folding 3 of a kind. That's the nuts. That is the best possible hand. The effective best possible hand, right? 4, also a very high equity card, but probably not leading a 4 all that often. So this is a spot where you can see, I can already guarantee a 7 and a 5 are leading very frequently. 8, 6, and 4 are probably leading occasionally. Not all the time, but like a little bit. And 3 is not going to be leading. 2 is not going to be leading. But anyway, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all leading candidates, especially the 7 and the 5, because we have a very big nut advantage then. Take a look at what solver does. As you see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 a little bit, 3 a little bit. King a tiny chunk, but not really. Like, for all practical purposes, ignore the 3, ignore the 4, ignore the 9. Really just looking at 5, 6, 7, and 8. Which makes sense, right? Because these complete the most straights and 2 pairs, right? So, this is a situation where we are leading on these. The 7 is very similar to the previous example where we're leading a whole lot, right? Solver leads 60-ish% of the time. It's leading like every 7, the good kings, and any sort of draw it can find. And then it's going to be checking. It'll probably check fives in that scenario, like bottom pair. I know we led some bottom pairs in the previous example just because we had a whole lot of sixes, or a whole lot of trips, right? In this scenario, we're going to have fewer trips, I think, because we're going to have more draws in general to begin with. But we're probably not leading bottom pair in that example. We're doing a lot of checking with ace high and bottom pair on the 7 turn. 5 turn, we're not doing a ton of leading because we don't have a ton of fives against under the gun +1, but we are still leading with the junkiest draws, like gut shots and 10-9 type stuff. And then we're leading with super nuts like the 5s. On the 6 or the 8, well, let's take a look at the 6. Look at the Pio chart here. As we see here, when the turn's a 6, we're not leading a ton. We're leading 35%. Still using mostly a small size. In this situation, we'll talk about the other situation in a second. In this scenario, you see we're leading. What is the nuts here? 9-8 is the nuts. Notice we're leading a lot with 9-8. 8-3 is the nuts. I'm sorry, 8-4 is the nuts. Notice we're leading 8-4 when we have it. What about 4-3? We're leading 4-3 when we have it. So we're leading all of our nut hands, right? If we do have a set, pocket 7s and pocket 5s that we slow played, we're leading those. What else? 7-5, 6-5. Notice all these 2 pairs leading sporadically. What bluffs are leading? Oh, so also notice the kings are leading, right? Some kings are leading here. What bluffs are leading? Notice a few bottom pairs like 10-5, 9-5, 8-5, 5-2. So bottom pairs are doing a decent amount of leading here, which is kind of neat. Notice we don't actually have a lot of hands containing a random 8 or 9. You may say, why not? Why are we missing a whole lot of hands here? Because all these hands just fold on the flop to the flop bet. To the 2/3 flop bet, by the way. We're facing a 2/3 flop bet, so we're folding out a lot of our junk. Like pocket 6s just folds immediately. And pocket 8s just folds immediately. Which is why they're not in our range. Let's see. Some people are nitpicking about what the nuts are. It's important to realize the term nuts, when you're trying to be logical, means the effective nuts. Hands that are happy enough getting their money in. If you make a straight here with 8-4, not 8-3, 8-4, and your opponent happens to have 9-8 and you lose, that's okay. Okay? If you have a set here, if you have pocket 5s and you happen to be beat, that's okay. If you have King Jack here and you happen to be beat, that's okay. It's the effective nuts. Okay? How about leading the turn to represent a flush? Well, it's kind of hard to represent a flush when there's not a flush on the board. There's only 2 hearts on the board here. Okay? Are you talking about the scenario where the turn brings a 3rd flush card? No, absolutely not. Why? Because let's say the board is 9, 7, 4, 6, 3 spades. You have some nut flushes, but the initial raiser has all of the nut flushes. So there you completely lack the nut advantage. We've already discussed when you completely lack the nut advantage, you do a whole lot more checking. Which is why we see here, right? On the 7, we have less equity than the 8 or the 6, but we actually lead more often, right? We lead more often on the 7 because we have more nuts. Whenever the turn is an innocuous middle card board or whatever that has 3 spades on it, you should not be leading there much at all because the initial raiser, who bet the flop, has lots of flush draws that completed on the turn. So you don't want to be leading into a range that contains a lot of nuts, which is why we don't lead with a king, right? Notice here we lead with a king like basically never. Even though we have kings in our range, why are we not leading with a king? Because it also connects with the under the gun +1 raisers range quite well too, right? Okay. Is this strategy better against regular players or recreational players? This is the GTO strategy. You can use this strategy against literally anyone, and you're either going to win or break even. One of the two. Now, if you know what your opponent does wrong, then you should adjust even further, right? Let's say we know, for example, our opponent's going to fold literally everything if a 7 or 5 comes and we lead. If they don't have a 7 or if they don't have trips, they're folding because they think that when you lead, you must have the nuts. All right, fine. Say the turn is a 5. Normally you're supposed to lead, 28% of the time. How often should we lead if the opponent's going to fold a king on the turn if we lead? Take a second, think about it. This is just pure logic, right? All these questions you ask, like, what do you do against this type of player? They're just logic problems. If your opponent's going to fold everything to a turn lead, you should lead with everything besides the nuts. Again, nuts means effective nuts. Turns out, people who try to pick holes in things that are completely unnecessary usually means they're not your target audience, is what it means. So Ceslo here says that you want to lead every hand, and the answer is no. I like the idea of leading very, very frequently, but you don't actually want to lead with your nut hands, because if you lead with a 5 here, king, 7, 5, 5, if you lead on the 5, and your opponent's going to fold a king, that's terrible for those hands, right? So you actually want to lead almost everything. You don't want to lead your absolute best hands. Probably like, what, king, jack, and better? Something like that. Okay, so, but like that's how you would play against someone who's an extreme calling station, right? Eric, I was not referring to you. Say your opponent is going to raise you every time you lead the turn, because they think turn leads are weak. They think that there's no way you could possibly have a good hand when you bet the turn, because why would you ever bet with a good hand on the turn, right? Wouldn't you check the trap? Again, I'm just giving you logic that some people use. Well, against that player, what should you lead with? If they're always going to raise you when you lead. And let's say they're just not even going to fold if you rip it all in after you raise and after you bet and they raise. Like they're going with the read. So these people are not folding. Some people will raise you, by the way, and then fold if you jam, in which case you should lead basically everything and then just rip it in with everything besides the nuts, right? But let's presume they're going to raise you every time you lead and they're not going to fold. Unless they just have garbage. Well, against those players, you want to lead with mainly nut hands, right? Hands that are happy getting raised, right? You don't even necessarily want to lead with your strong draws, because if you lead with a strong draw and get raised, it's not really a good result. You don't really want to be getting a lot of money in the pot on king 7 5 5 with, I don't know, 8 6 with a flush draw, because if you get it all in there, you're actually behind a lot of the time. 8 6 of hearts is behind everything. Like I said, this is give the guy ace 2, you're not happy. So this is a spot where you actually only want to lead with the nuts, right? So, as you can see, this is just a logic problem. If you have any idea what your opponent does incorrectly, then you can just easily adjust to exploit them, right? So the question was, does this work against good players or bad players? It works against all players, but as you know more and more about your opponent, then you can tailor your strategy accordingly. And like, I'm trying to think, like in general, what do people do against leads? I don't know. They actually do play very, very different strategies. We actually do discuss playing against leads. A lot of people don't lead correctly. Most people either lead with just the nuts or just with draws or just with marginal hands, etc. But it's important to recognize that. Third month as a premium member, finished 4th place on Club WPT's championship. Good job for 4K. Congrats. Ship it. All right. So what else do you want to talk about pertaining to leading? Are there any other... Well, so I don't have an example here lined up for this, but like let's say the board was instead of king 7 5, let's say it was 7 5 3, and the turn was a... Let me just type it here. This might screw up my PowerPoint, but that's okay. 3 of clubs, 4 spades. Let's say we get this board. All right? 7 5 3 4. This image is now very incorrect because the board changed, right? What do we do in this scenario? Well, clearly we have way more nuts, right? Clearly we have way more nuts. What kind of boards would you donk lead from the small blind or big blind? Kevin, this is literally what we're talking about today. This is when we are leading. A lead is, we're talking about out of position leads here. Someone raises, we call the big blind. We check the flop, they bet, we call, here's the turn. This is when we are donking, as you're calling it. It's not really a donk play if the solver says it's good, is it? Okay. I'm trying to think if I should go on a tangent. let's go on a tangent. We have time. I think we should try to get rid of derogatory terms. I'm sure Kevin wasn't trying to be derogatory because he has donk in quotation marks. Like he's trying to be as nice as he can. But a lead is a bet into the aggressor on the previous betting round. That's all a lead is. That's what the definition of a lead is. A lead is a bet into the aggressor from the previous betting round. If there was no aggressor on the previous betting round, like let's say the flop went check, check, then you can't lead because there was no aggressor. You're just now making a regular bet. A lead is typically thought to be quite strong because when your opponent bets the flop, they're announcing, I have a range and or nut advantage, right? So if they have a range and or nut advantage and you're still betting into them, it implies you have a very, very good range. And typically when we're leading, if you look at the ranges that we are leading, it's just with a polarized range, right? We're leading our nut hands, right? Our nut hands and our bluffs, hands that can't win at the showdown. So we're leading very good hands and hands that can't win at showdown. So I think we should get rid of terms like donk and fish and whatnot. Now, certainly I'm guilty of saying these words because they just become part of the vernacular. But I don't think we want to go around berating people. Because whenever you call someone a donk or a fish, a few things can happen. One, they just won't care. Two, they can think, maybe I am a fish. Maybe I should get smarter. Faraz Jaka talked about this. He said he used to be a fish. And enough people berated him to the point that he started learning. Now he's one of the best poker players in the world. He's a coach for us at poker coaching. Because he was a fish. And he got berated enough and thought, well, I guess I should learn to get good. So either they're going to do nothing, in which case nothing changes. That's fine. Or they learn and they become world class, right? Or they don't like that you're berating them and they quit. Which also sucks, right? So either they get better, which is bad, they quit, which is bad, or nothing happens. So, should you be speaking poorly to other players? The answer is very clearly not, right? You should keep your mouth shut and be stoic. Understand that just because other people react in various ways does not mean that you have to react in the same ways. Also, whenever you announce that someone is bad, if they're actually good, and they know their plays are good, it lets them know that the other player is actually bad. The other day I was watching someone stream at a table where I was playing, and I made a straight up solver approved play that I've been studying, and this person who's like seems to be a mediocre person labeled me as a fish. They didn't know who my name was. My name is anonymous on the site. And that's good, right? The fact that this player has now announced, I think this play is bad, despite the fact that I know for a fact, I literally just studied the spot, that this is a solver-approved play, means that they're actually not all that great at poker. Maybe they're fine, but they're at least not aware of this play, right? And that's valuable to me as a good player to know that they've not studied the spot. They think what I did is bad, and now they have me labeled as bad, and they're just going to continue making poor plays, like poor exploitative plays against me, because I ran a bluff in this spot. And they're just going to assume I overbluff probably, even though, to be fair, maybe it's true. But they're going to presume I'm overbluffing, right? So anyway, that's that. Again, I'm not saying look, Kevin, I know you're a good member of the community. I'm not talking about you in particular. I'm saying that in general, I think we should try to make poker a nice, clean, happy game. I know some people want to take it the WWE route, and we want to be in there battling and fighting and causing drama. And certainly, maybe that does cause fish, for lack of a better word, to get into poker. Because people who like battling and drama typically are fish. But the people who win at poker, if you look at the vast majority of them, they are all very stoic, very analytical. And like right here, when I lead on the turn, I'm not leading because I'm trying to push my opponent around or trying to bully him, right? Like that's not even my thought process. I'm leading because it's the most profitable play. And that's it. Period, right? And if I am leading exploitatively, it's because I'm leading for the reason of I am trying to exploit a mistake my opponent makes. Not leading because I think they're weak and that they're a chicken. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the thought process. But I think a lot of people have these thought processes. And in order to succeed at poker, in order to be a true shark, we're going to use sharks over and over again. In order to be a true shark, you have to like get all of this nonsense out of your head. So many people have so much nonsense in their head about like just ego-based things. And whenever you call someone a donk or a fish or whatever, you're doing that to try to stroke your own ego, to make it sound like you have better knowledge than them about the game. And certainly it's fine to like take notes on your opponents, and if you think they're bad, tag them as bad, right? That's what you should do. But at the same time, you have to realize that, this person made a play. Either that play is good or bad. Recognize, though, that just because you don't necessarily understand the play does not necessarily mean it is bad. Now, some things you see and you definitively know are bad because you've studied the spots. But if you are not sure if a play is bad, like say someone runs a bluff or turns a hand into a bluff or whatever, if you're not sure, you should not label that person as bad. If anything, you should instead realize, okay, they made an interesting play. Let me go study that away from the table. And if it turns out that play is good, well then great, you just learned something. And the person you learned from either got lucky and made the right play, or they're just a sicko, or the player's actually bad and now you know it. And even then, if someone makes like a random bad play on the river, it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad at all other spots, right? So anyway, that's that tangent. All right. Back to this. 7, 5, 3, 4. What do we lead? What do we lead on 7, 5, 3, 4? Do we have the nut advantage? Yes. Do we have the range advantage? Yes. This is going to be an incredibly high equity turn for us, 7, 5, 3, 4. We're going to be leading very close to everything. That's the spot where you want to lead almost your entire range. Exploitatively, you probably should lead your entire range. Because look, if I'm showing you on a random 6, when your opponent could have ace-king, king-queen, king-jack, king-10 suited, aces, kings, 7s, right? They could have all these nut hands here. We're still leading on this 6 35% of the time. If they can't have a king, though, because the board is 7, 5, 4, 3, or whatever it was, then they can't really have anything. The best thing is they can have are overpairs, and all of those are bluff catchers at this point because they have no straights, and we have lots of straights, right? So this is a spot where you want to be leading a ton. So anyway, I just wanted to show you this one module out of the Tournament Masterclass. There's 180 parts to this video. I shared another one with you yesterday. I shared 3 of them, actually, with you yesterday on youtube.com/pokercoaching, so make sure you check that out if you have not. This was flatted by the big blind, correct? Yes. Under the gun +1 raises, big blind calls, flop comes, whatever. Big blind checks, under the gun +1 bets, big blind calls. Here's the turn. What do we lead with? But as you see here, there seems to be even a lot of confusion as to what a lead is. And that is enlightening to me because I know what a lead is. I see poker reporters all the time screwing up what a lead is. They think a lead means a bet. A bet is not a lead. And some of you here are confused about even what this exact spot is. But a turn lead to me is a very specific thing where single raise pot 99% of the time because you're not leading in 3-bet pots because the ranges are very strong. Someone raises, you call out of position, flop comes, you check, they bet, you call, you bet into them on the turn. That is what a lead is. So anyway, that's that. The best turns to lead are definitively these, the low straightening turns, 8, 7, 5, 4. In this scenario, we're leading literally everything. Middle and low card pair turns, we're leading with our best made hands, usually top pair, good kicker, and better. And loads of draws. And draws is a very, very loose category, as we've already seen right here on Jack 6, 2, 6, right? We're counting King 10 and King 9 and Queen 10 as a draw. And then we're leading the corner case 4 of a suit on the board when 3 of those cards are high, especially when the ace is on the board. That doesn't happen very often, but that's also a very good spot to lead because you have lots of the random jacks, right? Okay. Where can you learn about the chart you are showing? You're lost. PokerCoaching.com. We go through all of this. I realize this is a slightly advanced presentation today. That's why we're sharing the screen. I'm not just winging it and talking to you about it. This is, I don't know, part number 132 out of the 180-part tournament masterclass I just released at Poker Coaching Premium. You can get the entire tournament masterclass by signing up to Poker Coaching Premium. You can get it at a big discount right now at PokerCoaching.com/Black Friday. To you, a lead is any time you bet into an aggressor. You're almost there, Adam. A lead is when you bet into the aggressor on the previous betting round. Not just the aggressor. Because like say someone raises pre-flop, it goes check, check, flop, check, check, turn, and on the river you bet into them. That's not a lead, that is a bet, because there was no aggressor. Also, we were discussing particularly turn leads here. Okay? You all like this presentation? Good. I don't know if I'm going to do my show on Friday. Probably won't. Got to watch my kids on Friday. Monday I'll definitely be here though. Maybe we'll talk about river strategies on Monday. We have lots of good river stuff. Also, clearly on the turn we discussed 3-bet and 4-bet pots, as you can see. Going through the solver, discussing various spots like this, right? 10-8 to ace, button versus low jack. You lead small on the ace, big on the 8. Good to know why, right? Multi-way on the turn we discussed. Playing the river. The river's a lot of fun because you have to go through and figure out where your hand is on the spectrum of playable hands. Then you have to figure out which bet size it falls in, how you construct your range, etc. Anyway, we'll go through all of this on Monday. How much is the masterclass? Woo! You can't buy it. You literally can't buy it. It's not for sale. But if you sign up for Poker Coaching Premium, you can. It's just included. A whole lot of other stuff's included at PokerCoaching.com as well. We have over 1,000 interactive quizzes. We have homework, monthly homework questions. We have live streams. We had a presentation last night by Michael Acevedo and Giraffe Ganger. He's the #1 player in the world recently. Hey, maybe actually be getting back there. Where he won 400K the other day. He won 2 EPTs last week. That's pretty lucky. So he was presenting on his $10,000 buy and win just the other day, last night. He streamed for us the day before that. So, lots and lots of great content coming out. Best poker instruction on the planet. That's the goal. The goal is to give you higher quality content, more consistent content, and content on basically everything pertaining to No Limit Hold'em to the point that you don't need to go anywhere else. If it's better and it's cheaper, what else do you want from me? Also, we have an app, GTO app. You can access the vast majority of our content through the app as well. So that is very, very relevant too. It's on the go. I know a lot of sites don't even have an app, or they tell you to use it on your phone, and it's pretty junky. We have the app. I'll show off the implementable. Well, we have GTO charts here. Let's see. I'm going to do versus. We're going to take a look at 80 big blinds on the button versus arrays from the low jack seat in a tournament. What should you do? Can you see this? Let's see if I can change this. As you can see this right here? This is your strategy in that spot. Solved it very, very quickly, and now we know how to play that spot pre-flop. Let's find another one. Let's say we had 40 big blinds instead. Remember, let's do 30 big blinds, actually. We'll show you the differences. So previously, aces 3-bet every time. Now take a look at this. Now aces does not 3-bet every time. You see aces in the top corner? Oh, come on, focus, computer. There we go. We see aces. Notice that. Does not 3-bet every time. Going through and studying spots like that is beneficial because you'll learn stuff like this. You can use this application in a live tournament. Not when you're actually in a hand, but before the hand starts, yeah. Before the hand starts, if you have 30 big blinds on the button and you think the player in the low jack's going to raise, because that's just how they operate, look at chart. Consult it. Cool stuff though, right? All that's just included. We have a Discord channel. They always do a study group. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't know. I presume they're doing it today. Today is Wednesday, right? Maybe they're taking off for Thanksgiving. I don't know. But they have a study group that runs Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right after this show, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. All this is just part of it. We back our players into tournaments because if you're in there studying, practicing, I'm happy to throw money at you and let you get in there and try to play high stakes tournaments, right? What's that app called? It's called Poker Coaching in the App Store. There's a push fold app, completely free. I know some people want to charge you for a basic push fold app, but ours is free. Easier to use, has accurate ranges. There's a push fold app out there that has inaccurate ranges. They charge you money, and you can't even it's clunky. I don't know why people pay money for something that's not as good, but I guess that's marketing for you, right? Anyway, that's that. Hope you had a great day. Hope you learned a little something today about turn leading. I'm not going to be here on Friday. I've already decided, but I'll be back on Monday. We'll be discussing playing the river. What's going to happen to poker when everyone's playing at this level? I've been teaching people to play poker for about 16 years now. And no one's playing at this level. So don't worry about it. You have to understand, there's a lot of poker players out there. All games get tougher over time. And you just have to get better, faster than they do. That's it. All you gotta do is get better, faster than your opponents. And I do get the idea that there are like diminishing returns and there's sort of like plateaus. But fortunately for you, poker's a really hard game. I've laid out implementable strategies that work fantastically well. It's up to you to study them. This tournament masterclass is over 30 hours long. I'm actually not sure how many people are going to get through the whole thing. I'm actually not sure. Because it's a lot. It's only for dedicated students, right? Like if you want to study poker for an hour a week, pokercoaching.com may not be for you, at least the premium membership, because we have lots more content for that, right? And, but I mean, if you actually want to get good at poker, that's what we're here for. Do I actively contribute to the APT site? No, I've not contributed there in about 12 years. You want a lot of money with my books in the past. Well, that's the goal. Anyway, if you want to sign up to pokercoaching.com, right now is the best time. We have a Black Friday sale going on. You're not going to get any cheaper prices ever. Ever. Literally ever. This is the cheapest it's ever going to be. So you might as well get in it. Someone said the prices last year were cheaper. Brutal. Should have got in last year. Yeah. The thing is look, we continuously add more and more high-level content, more high-level coaches. Last year at this time, we had, I think, 4 coaches. Now we have 12. The coaches I have hired are literally some of the best in the world, like DraftGanger, who streamed for us yesterday, the day before. #1 player in the world. James Romero, who was one of the top 10 live players pre-COVID, according to the Global Poker rankings. Faraz Jaka, world-class player. Matt Affleck, he's just like the man. He's in there every week providing webinars, discussing spots that you, the poker coaching students, ask him to go through. Oh, also I just added hand history reviews. If you're a poker coaching premium member, send me a hand history. I'll review it for you. So far, I've gone through about 50-something hand histories. And that's just there. That's just part of it. There's nothing else we offer. We try to do our best to help you become the best poker player you can be, because I know winning at poker is a whole lot of fun. Enjoying your hobby is a whole lot of fun. Making a living out of your hobby, kind of the dream. And that's what we help you accomplish at pokercoaching.com. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. Check it out, pokercoaching.com/Black Friday. Oh, I'm giving away $1,000. Might as well get in that giveaway. That's at pokercoaching.com/Black Friday giveaway. Giving away $1,000. Might as well go to you. So yeah, if you like this today, click like, click subscribe. There's a notification bell. I think that might be some slightly new feature on YouTube that will tell you whenever I'm streaming. Same thing on Twitch. So yeah, click all the buttons. That lets the YouTube overlords know that you enjoy the content. Have a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for being here. Enjoy your time. Call your family if you're not going to see them. Tell them you love them. Have a great weekend. Is it a weekend yet? Have a great long weekend, hopefully. Bye-bye.